Hi, I'm Veronica Lee, and I have someone else to introduce to you today. This is Jane Pierce. She also has a business and goes by Tarot Jane. So we will be meeting Jane, who is an empath. She is a tarot reader. She is an astrologer, and she is a Reiki Master. And we will be sharing a little bit about Jane, what she does, why she does it, and a little bit also about the class that she'll be teaching on my spiritual evolution platform. And so I'm really happy to have you, Jane. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, and I'm excited to be here. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.
It is, totally. I love doing this. So Jane, the first thing I always like to ask people is, what got you most people don't just stumble on, metaphysics, but sometimes they do. So tell me, how did you get involved in this metaphysical journey?
Well, like a lot of kids in college, I was experimenting, and friends of mine were reading tarot cards, and unbeknownst to me, I was about to completely change my life. I was working for Saturn back when GM still had that car. I was a senior in engineering and was very certain I had my life all planned out. And then things started to change. The tarot cards were interesting, and I was questioning how valid they were because it just seemed so obvious. And people were like, no, that's not obvious. I'd had a lot of gifts that I hadn't been working with. I didn't know that I was an empath. I just knew that I felt my friends' feelings sometimes. And then I had a near-death experience. And that, I think, in itself changes people profoundly. And for me, one of the things it did is that it catapulted my psychic gifts into a level that I couldn't ignore them anymore. Because I'd gotten along pretty well going, oh, I just know I don't talk about that. And then I couldn't. And my friends, after the near-death experience, gave me the tarot deck and said, you read it better than I do, so just keep it. And I was like, why? So I took all of that engineering and scientific questioning that I'd been developing through years of education, and I've started applying it to the tarot. And that led me down a path that sometimes feels like it was a gateway drug, because I had to know more about empathy, and I had to know more about astrology, and I just kept wanting to know more.
Yes.
That was in the late 80s, and I still have not done wanting to know more.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that it's that inquisitive mind that you have. And I love that you're, have that background as an engineer, because a lot of times people do think of us as woo-woo and that we're not very grounded. I actually have a background in art. And so that kind of follows with that woo-woo-ness, even though I am very, it wasn't just art, it was design. There is a structure there.
Yeah.
But you have that, very strong and well-developed left brain. So, I know that for you, it's important to really have that critical, thinking as well as the openness. So do you want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I believe in evidence-based tarot reading. I think that every reading should start with a reader giving you something about your past or your present that you can test them on. And it's not because I think they should be quizzed, but more because you have to develop a language together. And so if I'm talking about this person that seems to be affecting the situation strongly, and I describe him as cranky, and you think of a teething toddler, and I'm thinking of an old man saying, get off my lawn, we're not going to have a good reading. Not because I'm not accurate, but because we're not communicating. And I had that in the beginning and argued with somebody about, like, I was going to marry an earth sign, and they were like, and I was like, no, he's a Pisces. And finally he's like, well, he's got brown hair and brown eyes, and he's salt of the earth. And we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this month. So he was right, and his language didn't make it right. So I want to test two things. I want to test that we've got a connection good enough that you can trust what I'm saying, but also that we have communication good enough that you understand me and I understand you.
Yes, I find that too in readings, that sometimes expressing what we want to say doesn't always come out the way we want to say it. But more importantly, if someone isn't hearing it the way we meant it to be expressed, there can be that disconnect. So finding that common, ground in which the language and the communication is the first place to start is huge. And I think that's really, really notable that you have, decided this is where you want to start, and rather than being offended, let's say, when
Yes.
somebody wants to test you, instead you think of it as, yes, let's find that common ground. I think that's awesome. So in terms of, you know, this being an empath and, you know, moving it into tarot, how does that work in terms of, you know, when you have this feeling of stuff, right? That maybe it's from people and you're doing a reading as a tarot reader, I'm assuming you let both of those come through you.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, what the dance is with tarot, is that it is these pictures that in a card, you may be the fool who's about to step off the cliff, or you may be the dog going, whoa, 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 danger. And to figure out which part the person has in the card. And then to do it in less than 1,000 words, because isn't that what it takes, a picture to express? So zeroing in on that one piece of the image that best gives someone what they need. And when I teach tarot, I like to start people right away with something practical that's going to improve their lives. Because if this stuff doesn't make our lives better, then it's not doing what it's designed for. As an empath, I want you to feel better, and I want to give you something that empowers you, not empowers me. I can take care of that for myself.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think that we have in common, and the people that I love to bring on to my platform are, these are people who are empowering, not, you know, unfortunately, there are those out there who utilize their, you know, gifts to almost like be more powerful than their clients. And, you know, that's not what we're about. You know, we want to empower people to recognize where they can make choices, where they can start to see patterns and such. And what I'm excited about, what you're bringing in terms of this class that you'll be teaching, is that you're going to start from something very practical, even though tarot can be like, well, it's this deck of cards I don't really understand, to bring it into such a practical way. So what are you going to plan to offer at this class? I'm excited. I actually, you know, grew up with my mom having a tarot deck, and I've seen, you know, them, but I've personally never read tarot. So I'm excited for the class. So maybe share a little bit about what you plan to bring for this.
Oh, yeah. So the first thing, when I started researching tarot, what we're really dealing with is something that was radically changed in the late 1800s by the Golden Dawn. And they took tarot and kind of cleaned up, tightened up the symbolism, tied it to the tree of life. But it means that the tarot that most of us are using has got a very strong framework. So you don't have to learn what 78 cards are. You learn what 4 suits are, and you've got more than half of it done. And so that little bit of anchor, it's actually what the cards are that we're using now. Cups can be confusing, but they became hearts. And that's really easy to know that they're about emotions. So you can start with, oh, you're full of cups or a playing deck, and have it be full of hearts, and know this person's all about their feelings and not so much about doing, or the reverse.
Right,
So
right.
that's the first thing I want to bring to people, is see those patterns that the cards bring out that you then can interpret and use.
Yeah, I love that. So then people taking this class, this is a basic 101 class. They don't necessarily have to have a deck to do this. We're going to do this in the Zoom platform. So it'll be just like this. And they can just show up with no knowledge except maybe what a deck might look like, and they'll be okay.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if all they've ever done is touch playing cards, we will start out, because there's so much there that our language is kept. You know, we say call a spade, and the spades are the sword suit, and there's so much in there that can be harsh, the sword cutting, and we're going to use that. So you know basic English, you're going to be fine.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I would just add, you know, that as a teacher and someone who is interested in empowering others, that when we start to have access to really basic tools, whether it's a tarot deck or, you know, whatever else, we can really start to feel into a whole new medium or realm, which we may not have known before, but can use for our own empowerment. And so I just love that you're able to bring this class to us. So anything you want to add before we close about the class, or anything that you're doing or offering, anything at all that just is seeming to you to come through?
Yes, I want to tell people that they need to, that what we're going to do in this class is embrace both those sides, like we mentioned. I want people to be inspired to have their intuition come through, as well as to have a sense of history and meaning so that they are reinforcing their intuition into a stronger sense with logic supporting it instead of fighting against it.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And I see that you know, as we are awakening as a collective, we are moving from this sort of linear left brain thinking, and we are moving toward the right, but that doesn't mean we're letting go. It
Yes.
just means that we're embracing more. And I think that, you know, we're, you know, the ones that are out there on the fringes are actually kind of leading the way to that, because we aren't just, you know, out there. We are out there with this anchoring of our left brain and really here on the planet to do the work that we're here to do. And we have these amazing tools in which we can do it. And I'm really, really excited to have you teaching this. And the class is going to be on Saturday, June 24th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And there will be little links here at the end of the video in which you can connect and sign up. And I am so glad that you joined us, Jane. I look forward to working with you, and thank you.
You're welcome. I'm really excited about this class. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It will be. All right, thanks. I'm going to